Hi, I'm Gavin, and you probably don't know me, and you definitely probably have no reason to hear me out. But if you have felt unworthy, fear, shame, guilt, if you have felt unloved, I want you to know I've been there too, deep in unworthiness, fear, and shame, to the point where I was suicidal. I felt like a fraud because I was a missionary, a pastor, a speaker, speaking at churches all over the United States and Thailand. And every time I stood up to preach, I was terrified. I was terrified every single time I opened my mouth that they would find out what I already knew. I was a fraud. I preached grace, forgiveness, mercy, and God's love, all the while feeling the exact opposite. I would recite verses like, "You are fearfully and wonderfully made." But every single time I looked in the mirror, I saw shame and debilitating guilt. Every sermon just became another lie, another weight that I could no longer bear. Until one night, I found myself alone with a handgun in my mouth. But then I realized I was afraid of that too. I had nothing left. I was just desperate for the pain and the suffering to stop. And those walls, those ones that I built in my childhood to protect my heart from guilt and shame, had literally become my prison. I was hollow, a shell of myself. And I didn't understand why. See, I had been religious. I had been a Christian since I was a child, yet God felt absent. It was just barely existing. And at my breaking point, I had nothing left to hold on to. So in that moment, I did the only thing I could do, surrender. And not necessarily to God. What I did was I let go of the idea that the answer was in another church service, another pastor, another religion, or for that matter, another self-help guru. I stopped trying. I stopped doing. I surrendered the belief that I held the answers and that the answers was in anything I had ever done or followed or believed. I surrendered to the unknown. I took a one-night spiritual, non-traditional journey. And for the first time, I felt walls around my heart. Those ones that were supposed to protect me, the ones built because of guilt, shame, and religious traditions and doctrines. Yeah, those ones, they began to crumble. And in that moment, I started to experience love, worthiness, and unconditional acceptance. I finally saw myself through the eyes of the Creator. That type of love that I hadn't felt since I was a child. And, just like Jacob who wrestled with God, I haven't walked the same way since. Like the blind man who experienced Jesus, I now see. Like that leper, I'm also healing. But, this wasn't a religious experience. This was a life-altering experience. So I have no hidden agenda. I only offer this space for anyone who seeks it, for anyone who asks, or for anyone who wants to knock on my front door. So, if you ever get to the point where you are willing to hear from some random guy here in Arizona, if you get that bad, or if you ever reach the moment where you literally say, "Fuck it, what I am doing isn't working," I offer you a space to have your own experience. Because remember, you are enough. You are worthy. And you are absolutely unconditionally loved. Be blessed.